morning, good afternoon, good evening, brothers and sisters all over the world. Kakas and dadas and kakas all over the world. And yes, I am talking to each and every one of you all over the world. Whichever part of the day this message finds you. The name of this channel is The African Times, and I'm Thomas. All right, everybody, welcome. For those of you who may be just now finding this channel, let me give you a little bit of background quickly. I'm from America, moved to Africa 3 years ago, a little more than 3 years ago. And on this channel, we're going to explain to you about that experience, but we're also going to cover topics of the world affecting people that look like you and me, as well as our children, our children's prosperity, our children's posterity, and all of those economic and political activities taking place in the world that affect, again, people that look like you and me. Things that impact our children, our children's children, our children's children's grandchildren, and try to shed some light on how those things impact us now and will impact us in the future, and ultimately be written in the annals of history. And we can shape that today. You can shape your history in the present so that in the future your history will be written as you would like for it to be. So, okay, everybody, welcome back. Listen, today I just want to jump in for a minute to thank everybody. We're starting to gain momentum again. Thank you for your viewership. Thank you for your subscriptions. And I need to say in the beginning, thank you. I need you to subscribe. Like if you like. But also subscribe. It's a way to help the channel grow. It also, from what I'm told, it sends a message to YouTube and the YouTube algorithms and things like that, so that they expose your videos to the viewing public. We need that because of the things that we talk about are not things that you're going to hear about from the media, from the main media, also even on social media, a platform like YouTube or all of the other ones, Instagram, X or Twitter or whatever it's called. You're not going to get the kind of perspectives that you're going to get here. Not that we have some monopoly on knowledge and wisdom, nothing like that, but simply when you're talking about a perspective that comes from the lens of the benefit of people that look like me and you, a sincere, honest attempt to share information in such a way that it awakens your consciousness. You know, again, people that look like me and you, as well as others. But people that look like me and you, so that we can see the world for what it is and how it impacts us, and how all of the different economic activities and political activities, how those things take place, how they impact our lives and the lives of our children and our future and our posterity. This is a very sincere, honest effort to just bring the issues into the realm of discussion, and hopefully we can galvanize ourselves in such a way that we unify in action to solve some of these problems that we deal with as people living in this world. And this world right now is pretty much a world dominated by the economic system of capitalism. That economic system is one based on profit over people, profit over the health, benefit, and welfare of the many for the health, benefit, and welfare of the few. This is something that you can research fairly easily, but because the few who are who have put this system in place in the past, who have maintained this system for hundreds of years, and who wish and desire to maintain this system and continue this system, this capitalist system, those people who want to continue to manage the wealth of the world in a capitalist ideology, those people are what I call the W's. The West. They call themselves the West. That group of people has a history of capitalism and profit over people. And they did it in a way that disguises from you the harmful benefits or the harmful elements, I should say, that capitalism creates and that impacts your life, my life, people that look like me and you specifically, but also others who are participating in the system. Because there's the added element in it of racism. And racism, it's real. It's not made up. All of those of you who look like me and come from other parts of the world understand it. And the people that don't look like me, they understand it. They feel it. It's real. There's no question about it. But this system operates in such a way that it disguises the negative elements of capitalism and actually promotes them as positive attributes and as the best system for governing the world's resources. The reason that I focus on this area is because economics really is the foundation of all interaction between people. Whether that interaction deals with an exchange of money for goods or services, all interactions between people have an economic benefit. And that economic benefit, again, is not only monetary. I'll explain more to you about that later, but just to give you a quick example, if you have a home and you need your grass cut, okay, you also have, say, a video game. You can have a child, a young kid who doesn't have access to internet or video games. He could come over, or she could come over. They can cut your grass. Maybe they have a lawnmower. So they come over, they cut your grass. You don't have to give them any money. You tell them, okay, well, look, you cut my grass twice a week. After you cut the grass, you can sit and operate on the computer. You can surf the web. You can play the video games. You can do whatever you want for a couple of hours. It has nothing to do with money. It's an exchange of goods, services. In this case, you provide me the service. I provide you with the goods, the computer, access to the internet, computer games, and you can do your thing. But these kinds of exchanges of activity between people run the whole gambit from something like I just described all the way to nations around the world sharing their resources with one another. But the individuals, the W's, who are in control currently, those people, they don't want to change. They're not going to change. They're not going to change their philosophy. It's a very harsh philosophy for most people. And what it actually does is the capitalist system actually transfers the wealth of the world from the many to a few. And they do this by calling it public-private public-private, meaning you get public business activities, and you got private, and they promote private, which means instead of it being run, managed, operated, owned by the public, the many, with the benefits being for the many and distributed in a way that benefits many, they teach, promote, propagandize the philosophy that no, it's better to have private enterprise where an individual who is much more efficient and superior than the public management of resources. The individual and his enterprise can manage the business and grow the business more effectively, and therefore it'll benefit the many if the few get wealthy. It's kind of what their basic idea is. That's just simply not true, and we have a history of that not being true, but it's disguised in such a way that leads the many who are miseducated into believing that, yeah, you can get rich too. You can be like them, and then you'll see the benefits. Because guess what you'll do? You'll help your friends and family and other people. You'll grow jobs too. But you spend your whole life trying to do that, and you never succeed because you don't have the resources. So kind of how they're working, and just to kind of give you an idea, I really want you to understand, and I'm going to wrap this up, but I want you to understand. Here is the economic system in a nutshell, why it's disguised. It hasn't changed in many, many years. It's the same concept. You had 2 or 3 of them before capitalism. One of them you know about, master slave, you know about that. We, particularly as a people who look like you and me, we know about that. They teach it in their own history. You slaves, you went to a certain place, you got the people, and you made them work for free, and you owned them. You owned their children. You owned everything that they did, even their thoughts. You owned them. Okay, intellectual property. If they invented something, it was yours. If they had children who invented something, it was yours. You owned it because you were the master. That was an economic system. It was a way to take labor, use labor to generate wealth that will go from the laborers who produced it, who created it, who developed it, who worked with their labor, transferred to one person, a family, an individual, a group of people. And that group of people owned it, and they owned all the benefits, and then they would give that, enough wealth, or I shouldn't say wealth, but they would give enough of the benefits that were earned, money or whatever. They would give it back to the slave in terms of food, clothing, and shelter. In other words, you were a slave, you didn't make any money, but they spent money on you to house you, to clothe you, so that you can go and keep working. Now, that's just one system, slavery. But remember, the slave had to have food, clothing, shelter, which meant money was an expense in the business. It was an expense to keep the slave working. But there was another system, lord serf, feudalism, lord serf. This feudalism, and by the way, these are all the W's, the same people who operated these systems. The lord serf, you know about it right now. It still exists. You have remnants of it. It's called landlord. Who is your landlord? They're the person that owns the place that you rent. The business office you rent. Landlord. Well, back then, hundreds of years ago, they had the landlords. Landlords owned the land, and they would have serfs, people who would work there. They'd farm the land, or they'd take the resources from the land and do whatever the owner told them to do. The landlord, whatever the landlord told them to do, so that the landlord could use those resources to make money. Maybe they tell the serf, okay, you're going to grow corn on this land, or you're going to grow tomatoes or whatever. And then when it's all harvested, you give it to me. Well, that was there were many serfs, just as there were many slaves. Very few landlords. And the landlord would come and control the serf. The serf, in order to live on the land, the rent that the serf would pay basically was through their labor, whatever terms the landlord wanted, because the landlord was similar to a master. They controlled everything that the serf did, and the serf would live there and do what was told without question. Not really any money paid to the serf, but just you have your ability to live here. And maybe you work 3, 4 days, and then you got 3, 4 days that you'd be off and you could do your thing. But for the most part, you were under the control and mastership of the landlord. Well, people, just like all things, when people are treated unfairly, when people are treated unjustly, over time, they develop a stronger resistance to it. They get to a point where they cannot continue in that condition, in that situation. And this is what you have with each one of those systems. Lord serf, okay, and then, oh, wait a minute, master slave, okay. Now notice something about those two systems. Lord serf, boss, lord, landlord. Tell the people what to do, and you remain in that position. You're a serf. You're never getting out of that position, because the landlord is the Lord. You're going to always be a serf. Then you go to master slave. Slave, master, master over the slave. Slave will always be a slave. Master will always be master. You can be fooled. As I told you, they disguise it. They'll tell you, okay, we freed the slave. You freed the slave. But I want to show you now how that's a disguise. Just like the benefit of going from, say, if you were to go from master slave to lord serf. Serf kind of feels like they're free. They can move around and so forth. But the relationship between the Lord and the serf is the same as the master and the slave. All of the resources produced by the serf, all of the resources produced by the slave are transferred to the Lord, to the master, one group of people. Well, as the economic system grew, it changed again. And because people became unhappy with master slave, there were rebellions, there were uprisings all over the world, not just in America. People get confused and think it's only in America, but the industry of enslavement of people, that enslavement of African people, that was taking place all over the world where capitalism existed. Because capitalism involves profit, which means you have labor and expenses and things to produce goods and services, and you have to keep your expenses at a certain amount. So you want the lowest expenses that you can, so that to create the goods and services, you have the maximum amount of profit for what you sell it for, minus your expenses. So as the uprisings increased, global dissatisfaction with the system grew. People rebelled, people fought against it. There were other people, they just didn't want to do it anymore. And the masters, lords, the ruling class of people, they see this coming because they're living just like everybody else. They recognize that things are getting worse. So they change the system in such a way, as I told you, to disguise that the system is harmful for the few. They change the system in such a way that it confuses the masses of people into believing that, okay, there was a change and now it's going to be better. And they promise you that. They promise you that it's going to be better. When capitalism rolled in, France, which is a capitalist country, told its people this system, this economic system, capitalism, is going to be one that is beneficial for the masses of the people, and going to create brotherhood and togetherness and liberty and freedom for everybody. It's going to be great for everybody. Well, this introduction of capitalism was rolled out to the world, and we're in that now. It's at the end. It's having problems, but to show you that it's the same basic system as before, just with a different twist. For example, master slave. I told you, the master had to what? Have some expenses, housing, clothing, food, to keep the slave working. Give the slave the ability to work in the yard, just like oil in your car. You take your car, you have to give it gas, you have to give it oil, you have to give it a tune up, you have to maintain it so that the car can provide the service for you. The same way with the slave, but it was the same way with the serf. The serf needed to live on the land. And if they didn't live on the land, if they wanted to get whatever they could get from the landlord, maybe they produce some food, and okay, you're going to produce this food, you're going to give me 100, 100 apples. Well, I'm going to give you 20 so you can live off for the next week, and you come back and you can make some more, produce some more apples. This is what's happening with capitalism in the employer-employee, right? Same thing. You all know because we all work for them. Employer-employee. Employers are very few. And what do they get? They get the benefit of your labor. You work, you produce something, they get it, they keep it. They tell you how much you're going to have of it. But guess what else they're doing now that is really confusing and makes you think the relationship is different? It's really not. They pay you. And you believe that because you're getting paid, that the relationship between the master and the slave, or the Lord and the serf, has changed because I'm being paid. And I can even go someplace and get a higher pay if I go to a different employer. Okay, all right, so let's look at that for a minute. Did it change? Did it really change? I just told you, slave had to have a place to live. Employee has to have a place to live. Serf has to have a place to live. They have to have food and clothing. Yeah. So guess what? An employee, you can't come to work naked. Well, you probably could if you wanted to, but some people are gonna knock on your door. They're gonna knock on that office door. They're gonna come and get you. So you can't go there without any clothes. But you gotta buy the clothes because that's a part of capitalism. Everything that you need to live, survive in a capitalist system, you have to pay for. You have to pay for it because somebody's going to profit from it. So the employee, just like the slave and the serf, the employee is an expense for the production of goods and services by the employer. It's an expense for the employer. So the employer is paying you a wage. But the whole bottom line, I'm trying to keep this simple for you. The whole bottom line is that wage they're giving you is no different than the expense they had to pay for the house and the transportation to take the slave from the house to the plantation yard or to the job, just like the serf. But the serf lived on the land, so they were there. But what if the serf lived a little bit further away because that land is the farmland? You can't live there. You got to live over here. You got to have a horse, a cow, something to bring you to it, a chariot, a stagecoach, or whatever. They got to bring you to it. This is what's happening in employer-employee in the economic relationship there. The only difference is the advancement in quantity of businesses, the advancement in technology. So it becomes a little more sophisticated in how those expenses are handled. So now they just give you the money and tell you, hey, look, you go ahead and pay the rent, pay to the landlord the rent. Remember, you had to give that landlord the money back then. But now the landlord is specific now. The landlord is only dealing in ownership of the property you live in. But the job, back then, slave, plantation, you're there. The land is there. The slave, the labor, it's there. The family ownership, it's there. Now, the owner may be at, if you're in America, maybe you're living in Beverly Hills and you're over in the field in Idaho working. You're at the factory in Detroit working and the owner is someplace else. So they don't have time because they're enjoying life, having fun off of your labor. They don't have time to manage your home, the bills, the electricity, the gas, all these advances in technology that you're going to pay for. They don't have time to manage that. So they're going to give you the money and tell you you manage it. You pay your landlord, you pay your electricity, you pay your gas, you pay your water, you pay your food, you go buy your clothes, you get the transportation, you buy that, and then you show up over here where I need you to make this money for me. You make the money, like you do the work, the labor, and you give all of the things that you produce, whether it's making car parts or cars, airplanes, and making bombs. You give all of that product to the owner for them to do what they need to do to make their profit. Then they give you a small piece. Now, most of you think that's normal. That's a beautiful thing. It's a good job and it's normal. That's what you think. It's not normal. It's not natural. It's an economic system devised in the minds of men and women. And you can devise your own way. You can come up with a different system. It doesn't have to be that way. It didn't always used to be that way. Just like the money they give you. The money they give you didn't always used to be paper money and coin money. It was many different things. I think in Britain some years ago, not that there's some standard, because they're not. I'm just giving you an example because they're the people running the economic system today. They actually had wood, like a stick with some notches on it, that was used as a form of money. Money can be anything you want it to be. As I told you an example, money could be simply your word and the other person's word. Okay, you do this and I'm gonna let you do that. That's money. And if you say it's not money, it ain't real. No, it's the same way they put the money on a number. Like some of you have dollars, some of you use cards. It is kept on an electronic system. When you go to buy a car, many of you go buy a car. You don't go give the people $10,000 in cash. If you do, somebody's gonna be knocking on your door and asking you, where did you get that $10,000 in cash? You gotta remember, in America, you gotta sign and show why you have so much cash. What do? When you go to buy a car, you use and all that, they just pressing buttons on a number at the bank saying, okay, look, let's write this down. This person got this amount of money for this car, and now they have to pay us this amount every month. And then through your direct deposit, they do that in many cases. You understand? And the person who you gave the money to for the car, the owner of the car, you didn't come with that cash. They just type some numbers on a book, or maybe they write it on a piece of paper, then they go and give it to somebody. They type it in some numbers in a computer. This is what is happening. The same way I just told you about the boy or the girl who comes to cut the grass. It's the same thing. But because it's on a large scale, a macro scale, then they have accountants who have a job to keep track of all of the exchanges of economic activity. Other than that, there's no difference. So the point I'm making to you is that you are participating in a capitalist system that's been evolving over hundreds of years to its current state. But you must understand, there are many systems. There are many systems, and you can have your own. But the people who are in charge, their job is to convince you, even at all their universities, all you people with the master's degrees and the PhDs, and you got the one who went to this school and you did that, and you went to that school, you're smart, and you know. You only read the books they give you. Do you understand? If you only read the books they give you, all of the other books that perhaps would present to you a different perspective, a different idea, a different methodology, you don't know about those. And the people who give you the books they want you to read tell you, okay, now you're an expert because you know what we want, how we want it done. And because you know that, we tell you you're an expert. And then you walk out with all this pride and all this, arrogance that I'm an expert. I graduated from this school, so I know it. I know this thing. And then they roll out these names to you of people who they tell you, well, this person was a pioneer in this field. But it's all the same people working together to promote the same system that benefits them and not you. The few, the class of people, the few, Lord, Master, employer, all the same people, same group. And some of you feel like you can move into that group, but you don't actually move into that group. You don't actually move into that group. What you do is you become a part of their group system on a different level. The actual rulers who are maintaining the system and making rules, they have very few people that they let into that group. That group remains the same, whether it's through a family line, through a political line, a history of being in that group. And if they bring you in, they only bring you in because they can take a person from the larger group that have no resources, the citizenry, the people. They take one from you. Remember I told you to disguise. They take one from you, like an Obama. Take them from this group. You bring them up here, you say, no, anybody can make it and rise to the top. He pulled himself up, he worked hard, and look what he did. He benefited, he became president. No, it's just, some people call them puppets. But it's just another way to disguise the system so that the masses of people believe that this system is working and that they have a way to, move with upward mobility through society to rise to. It's all lies. It's all lies. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you it's all lies, but it's all lies. How do you manage 1 billion, 2 billion, 7 billion people? How do you manage them? How do you manage them? And this is the process that these people are engaged in, the W's. They're the current managers of this large population of people. And what you have today, and we're going to talk more about this in another video, what you have today is a group of people who have been managing the world's resources, both physical resources, meaning labor, raw materials, finances, all of these things they've been managing for a number of years. But again, capitalism is a very harsh system to benefit a few. And now all of the masses of people, and it happens periodically over time, it has happened, but all of the masses of people right now are rising up again and simply saying that they're tired of the oppression and the repression and the mismanaging of wealth, all the wealth being distributed to a few people, and they're having a wonderful life, and everyone else is struggling to survive and living from week to week and under the stress, and they're tired of it. It's just what it is. And it's not me. I didn't do it. You didn't do it. You're victims of it. I'm a victim of it. And our children will be victims of it. And our children's grandchildren will be victims of it, unless at some point the society, meaning people all over the world, make the decision that they're going to change and require a different economic system. But remember, even if you want to do that, these people that are currently operating their economic system, before they lose, they will try every means available to them to maintain that power and control. They will disguise it. They will tell you, as an example, yes, you have successfully changed it. So listen, you're right. It should be distributed evenly. It should be fairly distributed. So here's what we're going to do. You notice that? Notice that? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to put together a system that's more fair. Okay? This is what they come to you with. But did you notice something? They just told you, okay, you got a new system, okay, we're still in charge, we're still in control, and we're going to give you a new system the way you want it. Now, they tell you that so that you calm down. You calm down. And then they what? Put their system back in place so that over time you become convinced, and they give you something now. They carrot and stick. So they give you a few carrots, they give you some nuggets, they give you some things to make you feel like, okay, yeah, all right, no, they're all right, it's getting better, yeah. And then you look up and the cycle is continued, you back in the same situation. And this is where the world is right now. So I just had to come and let you guys know that's what's going on now. At the beginning, I told you I need you to subscribe. It's very important. We're going to get into more things like this, but this kind of discussion we have to have as people. Please subscribe, like if you watch some of the videos, like, subscribe, and comment also, because I'm really interested in hearing what you guys think. We're going to kind of, I'm settled now. I was in Africa. It was very challenging from one place to the next, which I'm going to talk to you about that too. But like and subscribe if you like. But like and subscribe, and we're going to, over the next few weeks, we're going to have a discussion on the Power series. Oh yeah. There's a brother who, it hurts me because I don't see a lot of reference to this brother, Dr. Amos Wilson. Brother Amos, psychologist, political activist, educator, professor, and just morally astute human being. Wrote several books, gave many invaluable lectures. We're going to delve into his book. Now, Grandmaster Jay gave us 10 books. I'm going to get that list and I'm going to present it to you. And if you don't know who Grandmaster Jay is, you need to check it out. That's that brother I've been telling you about. I'm going to come back. I look for some videos again on him, show you who he is. He's alive today. He's with us. And he has been great, great humanitarian for all people of the world, and particularly people who look like me and you, to stand up and say and do the things that need to be said and done to protect us, to try to bring about a change in this very, very harsh system. But as I've explained to you, these people, these W's, people who don't look like me and you, when they see someone like that, they act against him. Because he didn't just talk, he did things. He was a doer. He was a man who changed history, who brought about benefits for us. So he's with us. I'm going to talk more about that in another video. But okay, please like and subscribe if you can. And we'll talk more about these things that impact the lives of our children, our children's children, so that you understand them, and then that'll motivate you, hopefully, not just to listen and become inspired, but to also participate in all the programs that you hear about that are being conducted on our behalf by great men like Grandmaster Jay and many others who are out there. Okay, Dr. John Fitzgerald Johnson, known as Grandmaster Jay. All right, everybody, it's good talking to you again. Be talking to you soon. Ooh, 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 ooh.